Welcome to the Rialto Marketing Podcast. Today's episode is a revenue acceleration series interview where we talk to seven-figure B2B service firm owners who are actively trying to grow their business and get to the next level. We talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly so that you can learn from their experience. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing, where we believe you must remove your revenue roadblocks if you want to accelerate growth, and marketing shouldn't be difficult. I am super excited to have Jessica Harris from Harris Energy Solutions with me today. Jessica, welcome, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Tim. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to dig into this with you today. Before we do that, I want to ask you just a few rapid fire questions to get things started. You ready to jump in with both feet?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So very quickly, what do you do and how long have you been doing it?
So my degree is a mechanical engineer. But since then, and since starting and graduating, I guess, it was almost 18 years ago, I have been doing energy engineering. And more specifically, energy consulting. So the company which I own is called Harris Energy Solutions, incorporated in 2016. And we basically work for any commercial or industrial client, right? We find ways that they can save energy, whether it's installing renewable opportunities or, kind of documenting what their heating, ventilation, air conditioning is, and kind of coming up with paths of either like fine tuning it or replacing it with more energy efficient alternatives. So kind of a long road, but that mechanical engineering background really feeds well into that work.
Yeah. What's the most important lesson you've learned so far in running your business?
I guess, there's so many. It's hard to pick.
I get it. It's a hard question because any of us that have run a business for any period of time know that we've learned so many different things. But I'm always curious just to see what comes top of mind for people.
Yeah, I want to say if I have to pick, I'm going to pick two.
Cool.
But, one of them is accountability. And I know in a couple of the questions, you're going to hear me repeat that a lot. People have to rely on you. They have to trust you. You have to build a relationship, and relationship and accountability kind of go together. Say what you mean and then deliver on it. That's kind of like a huge lesson. And I found that when I don't kind of do that, or things happen, it's not always my fault. That's when things really fall apart. And then kind of the other one is you have to make sure you bill for your work and you make money, and you have to, I hate to say that, you have to honestly always keep that in mind. You have to keep having revenue. You have to be able to support all the things that you do and all the things you want to do. And I feel like in the beginning, I was kind of just like, oh my gosh, I have a business. What am I doing? But now I'm very, very keen to, well, are we going to make a profit? Are we, it's more of a focus. So those two, I would say.
Do you have any kind of mantra or motivational saying that you say to yourself to kind of push through those tough times, or share with your team?
Motivational. That's a good one.
I'll tell you.
I think one I like a lot is I can conquer anything and everything that comes my way. And I know that sounds a little cheesy, but I feel like also too, a lot of times we get into really interesting scenarios of even if it's an application or, a very complex engineering calculation. And we're like, what do we do? It's we're going to figure actually, I want to go back. Everything is figure outable.
Yeah.
I actually got that as a sign as one of my, in one of the offices. I sent that to my director, because it really is, you have to be open, have an open mind. But it goes along with the other thing where you can conquer anything, kind of that tone.
One of mine that actually is very appropriate to what you just shared is that flexibility is the key to stability, and that was a quote, I believe, from John Wooden. But gosh, it's just so appropriate in business and in life, where it's we just have to be flexible, right? We
Mhm.
can't possibly see all the things that are going to be coming at us in the future, and man, we just have to have the ability to adapt.
Adapt and
So
change, absolutely. Yep.
yeah, I love it. So you started your business in 2016. You never planned to start a company, but you did. Tell us more about that journey.
Yeah, I was very happily a senior energy engineer for a very large firm. I worked with a great group of people. My salary was great. I had a great balance of being on site and then also at home, like where I felt like always engaged and then I was getting that point in my life where I wanted to have a family and settle down and it's kind of like all kind of merged together. And so I ended up moving here for my then husband. And we did just that. And the move, I kind of thought Texas, wow, they're, maybe a lot of their energy comes from oil or natural gas and different things, but I just feel like they're right on the forefront of energy and that I would have no problem finding a similar job, exact
Yeah,
pay, a little naive. But it was okay. Like I immediately started going to all these meetings and meet people and kind of understand the landscape of Texas. And kind of what I found is like energy managers, they got paid honestly about half of what I was making. And that was pretty rough. And you're talking about like a 45-minute commute there and
yeah,
back. And I was like, oh man, I mean, the cost of living here is, well, I don't know about anymore, but when I moved down here, it was. And, it's just kind of an alarming thing. So I talked to my mentors and I was like, what do I do? I was able to work part-time for a while. So that was really nice with the company I was with. They were very kind to do that. But, I knew that that did have an end date. So I had to come up with a plan.
yeah,
Um, and a lot of them were just like, Jess, a lot of people in our industry, we need to fulfill a diversity requirement. That can be anything from minority, woman, business owned, I can go on for hours for that. But they're like, why don't you just start your own firm? I could hire you this month, like kind of, I was like, huh, well, I mean, I still do have this part-time gig, so I could kind of see how it goes. Start a business really honestly. If you don't have a brick and mortar and stuff, it's about $1,000, like I'm like, maybe
yeah,
I could try that. It's like the cost of a phone, really.
yeah,
If you think about it. And I was like, and I just think of like, I actually did work for a small businesswoman and I was like, she could do it. I could do it,
yeah,
like, and why not? I just never really thought about it. And I know actually a couple of my people that I worked with, they actually went off and they have like one or two person firms and they live a very comfortable life. And I was like, that's all I kind of thought about. I was like, oh, that'll be good. I'll have it'll be a little bit more stress because I have to bring in my own jobs. It's probably
yeah,
like every business owner's worry, especially in the service industry. But other than that, like I know I'm capable. I know I can do it. So yeah, I just kind of like slowly dabbled into it and started off slow. Like in the beginning, it was like 20 hours a month, maybe. And then after a while, like you get one client, then you get another client. And then, pretty soon, about, almost 2 years in, I did have my children at the same time. It was a very busy
yeah, yeah.
period of
Busy
time.
time.
I literally had both of them back to back. And um, it, yeah, it really took off. And it's just continuing and I just can't believe how far we've come of just an idea. And I think it's important to know that my main thought when I started, I was like, you know what? I just want the flexibility to be with my kids, right? Like whenever I want to, right?
Yeah,
Like, and it's pretty funny. I gave up 40 hours a week to I work every spare minute of every day, but
yeah,
it's fine. The because like when I want to meet my daughter for lunch, I do. And if I
yeah,
want to go on a field trip with my son, I do. And you know what I mean? And that nobody
yeah,
questions it. And I balance everything around these focal beliefs. So yeah, that's kind of just how it happened, and it's just becoming such a beautiful, wonderful thing.
yeah.
Um,
What's what's been the biggest driver of your growth so far?
well, I think there's a lot of ways to grow. Um,
There are.
and I think the I think we have grown very naturally. I think that's something that a lot of people don't do. And I do have to say it probably stresses the people that work for me because you really have to wait. till you have the work to hire, right? Which, and then, when you're like, I'm going to hire somebody, that takes a process too, right? So I've always kind of done that. And then, like I said, when I started, I thought it was just going to be me, maybe an intern. But it's really become my driver is my people. I feel definitely a responsibility for them, for their family. And I really do. I take that very personally, and it motivates me though. Like whenever sometimes I'm tired, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just like leave early today. It's like, well, nope. There's a lot of mouths to feed here, and I have to make sure everything's taken care of. It definitely drives me, and I know I have an amazing executive team, Robin and Dang, and they feel the same burden. And it's nice that I'm able to share that, but it's still that is probably the main thing. And then I think another driver is the relationships you build over
Yeah.
time. Like you, we have trust. Like our clients trust us. Like actually, one of our clients just told us a month ago, so we are the HES bailout plan. When your project is going into heck, give us a call and we'll straighten it out. We'll get it done. We'll bring the hammer down and get you back on path, because it's like a lot of these stuff can get very overwhelming, and we're always being considered that sub that really is great. They help you. You're not just
Yeah.
hiring them because you have this diversity requirement. You're hiring them because you want to. And it's like we use that opportunity and we have just kind of leaned in completely for it.
It sounds like, early on, you had connections already in the space that you were able to get your initial jobs going, right?
Yep.
Um, and it seems like you were able to really leverage that into more work and then more work and more work, and it just continued to build. Do you find with industrial and commercial clients, are a number of your clients repeat because they're continuing to expand? Um, and are there really good referral type partnerships with, construction management companies or things like that are bringing you into projects as well? What does that look like?
Yeah, we don't really have a referral program yet. I do think that would be a great way to, and a lot of people honestly do it because I think they just truly like us and they want to succeed. There is actually people out there that do that. You know, so as far as the referral one, like I think people refer because they had a great experience and they want
Yeah.
to share that. As far as I liked what you said about growing with these primes, we'll call them, even though we're becoming a prime ourselves. Um, it- but um, we we do grow with them for sure. But it's again, it's showing up. It's getting things. Like I was talking about accountability, right? If you are constantly like that, and everyone on your team is like that, and we treat all projects the same, large or small, like we have these little farm audits. They're everybody's favorite. It's so I don't think I've made money on a single one of them. But it's like cool. They're like cow farms, or you know what I mean? Like, but the thing is, like, even something as little as that, we're still like, we're gonna. I remember the first time we submitted, they actually wrote to us. They're like, "Wow, this is one of the best audits we've ever seen." Like literally, like I save these things. I save scraps of them. I have like a happy folder, but like it's like that. This stuff matters, and people talk, and it's like after a while, you build this momentum of just from trust and accountability and just doing the right thing too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure like there are so many opportunities in a day you could like go astray and, oh, hey, if you get us this job, you get, so you cannot mess with that, especially
Yeah.
like what we do. We are supposed to be an independent person to a project. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's literally the core of what we're saying. We're giving this advice because it's the best thing to do.
Yeah.
So always be on the straight and narrow. And it's like, again, that goes with that trust with these, and these clients just bring us back over and over. It's wonderful. Like, and and even like today, like there's one company I've been with them like almost 7 years now. Like, and I still, when they send me a job, I go, thank you, really, from the, like, and I mean it, it's like, you
Yeah.
can't take this stuff for granted either. So I really went on a tangent there, but hopefully I
No,
answered your
no, it's
question.
no, it's totally okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's just, you know, some people, it seems like you guys obviously do great work. You continue to get referrals. But it's not, some people really struggle to grow, right? Even with referrals, because they're not getting enough referrals, or there's not enough work. So, you certainly have been in a really strong position to be able to continue to grow like you have with referrals. And like I said, it speaks volumes to the type of work that you guys do and the quality of work you do. One of the things that we talked about in the pre-interview was that you and your director are responsible for sales, and you're managing projects. What have been the biggest challenges you faced in managing both roles, and how have you worked to overcome those?
I would first like to start that there's not enough time in a day. um, yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I actually did a 10,000 small businesses Goldman Sachs program. It was like
Yeah.
over. I don't know if you heard of it, but
Yep.
and it was kind of interesting. That is one great thing I got from talking to all these other business owners. You know what? There's no one who sells your there's no one's going to sell your business better than you, right? Like, so unfortunately, until we get so big where I can hire a business development person, like, then it has to be me, right? And then the next best in line is the
Yeah.
the second in command, really. So it is a lot of hat shifting. You have to change day to day, and I think that's always been one of my strengths, to be honest. My whole life, I have always been able to adapt, and I have this resiliency about me where you just can't get too tied up into anything because you got to just move forward, and you got to
Yeah.
just shift to one gear and not. And sometimes it's very hard. Like, I'll have a conversation with my lawyer about a contract, what we're trying to push back on. Then I'm jumping into a PBSIS calculation. Well, why did we put this way? And then the next second we're interviewing for a project, and it's like, wow, you really feel like you're just kind of flying all over the place. And
Yeah.
I do really have a goal that I will not be doing that forever. Where I eventually do want to bring in really great talent to kind of almost do that better than me, right? Like,
Yeah.
I love hiring people smarter than me, better than me. Like, I want to bring in like the best kind of people to serve my clients. So I guess kind of like that's kind of what you're overcoming. You're overcoming having to switch back and forth. And then another thing we're doing is I really want to hire internally. Like, that's something that's very important to me.
Yeah.
We have a lot of young staff too. Um, on the younger end, if you compare us to some of the others, and we have kind of created this hierarchy from our internal staff. We call them like our mid-level managers, and I just think it's just invaluable experience. And even like that hasn't worked out for me. Some have left. I invest so much time and energy in teaching them this, and they leave, and it's painful, really.
Yeah.
And you think you have this relationship, and they just go. And um, but it's like, I think it's so important that these younger people get this leadership experience. And it's like, but man, if they can stick it out, and it's like, man, they're gonna be great. And it's like, I feel like they'll feel more worth. And I just, so that's like one of the things we've kind of done to combat it is try to create like this hierarchy, and eventually, like, and then also give people a path. Like, I think that's a
Yeah.
lot of people's hesitancy of going to a small business. They're like, well, am I ever going to move up? Am I going to get promoted, or am I just going to be stuck in the same? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. I'm creating it. I'm creating this ladder for you. And um, I think, yeah, it's been working, but it also has not worked too. So
Well, it's not going to work every time, but I was going to say before you brought it up, uh, it does when you hire internally, it does show people
mhm,
that gosh, there is a path as we continue to grow,
mhm,
which I think is a great thing. Um, it's I guess there are a lot of business owners that are wearing multiple hats like you are, and it can be challenging at times. Do you think that do you think you will hire sales or project management first?
project management.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Mm.
I I agree with that. I think it's not easy to find good people, period. But I think when you're promoting from within, I think you have a really strong candidate pool to
Mm,
have them start managing more projects so that you can focus on the sales side of it, which
yeah.
I think makes a ton of sense. Um, how do you how do you balance the need for growing while maintaining, your company culture? I know you've worked hard to build that. How do you how do you do that? How do you think about it?
Hmm. Yeah, balancing growth and maintaining the company culture is a key to like ensuring long-term success for sure. So I think
Yeah.
we prioritize both being intentional about our hiring practice and focusing on like values alignment from the start, right? We have like a very specific way we hire, and some people might say it's a bit ridiculous. We actually have like 3 rounds of interviews, but to me, I want the interviewer to also see what we're like. Are we a good fit for you?
Right.
Interviews are both ways, right? That's another
Yeah.
thing. I really and sometimes I get grumbling. It's just like I'm like this is how it is. And we've actually had a couple of bad hires, and it's when we didn't follow this process. Let's see, we also use value-based interview processes where we ask questions that reveal how candidates approach collaboration, problem solving, ethical decision making. That's sometimes
Yeah.
hard to bring up, but we want to emphasize like continuous communication, training. That's like another thing. I'm really big on training. We have our yearly reviews, and that's like one of my first questions after we're through everything. Like, well, what cert you going to get this year? Like how are we improving you?
Yeah.
Like even if it's just something too, like maybe even just like a speech. You want to work on speaking, public speaking, anything. Like what are you lacking, and how can we address that head on?
Yeah.
I think additionally too, we encourage open dialogue across teams and ensure leadership exemplifies the culture on how to like sustain that. I know, like just recently, I feel like we actually had a period of time where we kind of moved away from that, and it wasn't intentional. It was just we were just rolling on just
Yeah.
project and project and project, and even my director, he goes to the offices now and like literally sits down and checks in with the mid-level managers and like how is things going, like be in the same room, and I think that's really good. I'm really sad that for a while we kind of lost that just in the hustle and bustle. But it isn't easy, to your point, the original question. We do have our core values. We actually have to remake our video. We had a video. We have some people leave, so we have to
Yeah.
kind of swap them out. But one thing I actually you reminded me of with this question. I actually have the core values in this really pretty sign. I have to get them printed out, and I want to put them in the offices. I mean, just have it in front of people. Like,
Yeah.
this is what makes us us, and it makes us different. And yeah.
How many people do you have on your team?
Oh gosh. People ask me all the time. I like never know, and I feel bad. Somewhere between 20 and 24 now. Yeah,
Okay.
but
And are they all in-house? Do any of them work remote? What does that look like?
oh yeah, we have a. You know what? That's another thing that I think makes us different is we are definitely very hybrid. Like we have many offices. There are a couple staff that are outside of that, and they only go occasionally. Um, but yeah, we have a hybrid and remote, and a lot of
Okay.
times there is a lot of field work. I want to say like you get like a pretty large project, 25% of it you're going to be in the field collecting all this information. The other 75, you're going to be grinding away at calcs. You're going to be writing reports. You're going to be making sure everything's calibrated, everything's correct. Like it's yeah, it's a nice blend. Which like
Yeah.
I kind of said that's what I had originally. It's good. I think it's a good mix.
How did you it sounds like you have a pretty detailed hiring process. Was that how did you formulate that? Like, did you guys hire a consultant to
Learning
help
from
you with that?
mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, and it's literally that, like, every day, that's like one of the things I tell my dad all the time. I'm like, I fail sometimes like 30 times before lunch, but you learn
Yeah.
so much from failing. But it's like, how do you react to that? Like one of the instances I remember, we were bringing on a pretty high profile person, and it ended up like at the end, we were like at the end of it, and we thought she wanted a certain salary, and then like we go to like make the offer, we got that far, and she was like, oh, I want way more than that. But if we had known that from the beginning, you're talking like 2 months of effort here, right?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, how did we mess that up? That was like one of our questions in the first interview. And I was like, nope, no more. There's a form. You're filling out a form. Like, and the form, you're going to write it down yourself. So we are clear of what you want, and it's like that's just a good example. So I'm like, okay. And also, like the intake forms too, it's pretty interesting. Sometimes it does tell you how long it takes the person to fill out. Sometimes it's like an hour. You're like, this
Yeah.
probably should have taken you 5 minutes. Like, all right, man. Like, you're really stressing about this. But it's just different things like that. And some people, like, they just leave there's only like 5 blanks. They leave them blank. Like, they leave them, and I'm like, you're probably not too serious about this,
Yeah.
But and that's why we do the 3-tier thing. Like, it used to be like me and Dang just did all the interviews, and let me say, we made some mistakes. Like, and I have people chirping at me like, well, if I interviewed them, they would. And I was like, you know what, you're probably right. If you had interviewed them, this would never have happened. So let's do
Yeah.
that. It's like you're saying, being adaptable, changing. And it's like all these things that have went wrong, like hiring these people that were just dreadful, like it's coming up with a process. No, I did not talk to any agency. That would sound really nice if that was a solution
Yeah.
that's available.
So you really, every time you made a mistake in the hiring process, you took the time to figure out where did we go wrong, and you filled that gap moving forward.
Yes. And we actually just made one of those changes today too.
Yeah.
Like with references, like people get references. Like, we need to screen them ourselves. Like, do we want to reach out to these people? Sometimes you don't, like, yeah, literally you learn every day. It's
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
I love that because it's, a lot of businesses struggle with hiring, right?
It's
And
really hard.
it's not an easy thing. Frankly, I don't think it's an easy thing on both sides of the fence. I mean, I haven't looked for a job in a long, long time, but from what I hear, I mean, gosh, it's like sometimes you're just putting stuff out there and you feel like it's going into the ether, right?
Yeah.
As a job candidate, and on the flip side, as an employer, it's like, my gosh, like we're getting people, but gosh, nobody is the right fit. Um, and so I think finding that balance is important. But on the employer side, having that process that really is defined, that you follow, and you don't skip steps, helps ensure that you get a consistent output.
It's
Right?
also fair too,
Yeah.
like no candidate should have more advantage over another. Like, it should be an even playing. Like, and even like I don't want to say friends. That sounds weird, but like I've had friends like, oh, I should join, and I'm like, okay, you're going to go through the same hiring process that everyone else does. It doesn't matter that I know you and that I've worked with you in the past. Like you're going to get the intake form. You're going to, but yeah, I think it's really it's good. And you just keep learning, and it's good. And try not to get too frustrated when it does blow up,
Yeah. So what's next? I mean, your business is growing well. You guys are doing great work. You keep getting more jobs. Where's your vision taking you?
I don't know. Like, we've talked about maybe adding some subsidiaries, maybe, like kind of like spin-offs of like certain tasks we think we could do, but we haven't really done that yet. We have a couple ideas, but nothing is really formalized. I have like a silly goal of like being the best engineering consulting firm in the world, right? Like, and it's, just keep dreaming. And I think another part is like to set goals, like kind of crazy, but kind of realistic, right?
Yeah.
It's I think it keeps you young. It also keeps you focused, like if you have something to shoot for, each day you get up and you make a bunch of decisions that match up to that. It's kind of like the core values, I think. But yeah, I guess I want to keep growing, but the one part that I'm super concerned about is like I don't want to lose our quality of work. And that's very hard because of the management piece, which we kind of talked about. Like, so that's kind of like what we keep saying to ourselves every day. And we want to I think just keep that mentality and keep ensuring that our quality of work is good, and keep making all of our clients happy, and and then make decisions too. Like, I haven't quite really said no to a project. I don't think
Yeah.
I'm there, but I know that like the larger firms that I talk with, like they turn down stuff all the time, or like there's an opportunity. I'm like, oh, we should partner on this. Like, we're not going to go after it. I'm like, what? Like, but when I get to that point where I feel like we can do that, I think that will be you have to be strategic with a
Yeah.
lot of things and what your goals are and what's next. But yeah, I want to keep growing, but I want to keep growing where we keep that culture, maybe ruffle the feathers a little bit, but also like keep that quality. I want to be a brand name. I want people to I want to keep being everyone's bailout plan,
Yeah.
and also their answer to. I mean, we've saved people millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the cool part about. I feel like you get that too, right? This is like I'm preaching to the choir here, but you we really offer a lot of value to our clients. And I
Yeah.
think that's why repeat work isn't really hard. Um,
Do you think that you can continue to hit your growth goals with the way that you have grown up to this point?
I think so. I think so. Yeah, but like I said, you kind of have to keep adjusting your sales. And the more and more we're kind of finding, the more and more people you bring on, like, that's kind of what led to the mid-level management decision. Like, the more and more people you have, it's impossible to spread yourself across all areas you need to. It's learning to delegate,
Yeah.
letting things go, and letting things crash and burn. I hate to say, I know it sounds awful, but like you do, and it's okay because you've already learned it, but your analyst needs to, and your
Yeah.
your engineer, like they need to see why, but be there to help them, and of course minimize the damage. Don't just go send it out, but you know what
Right.
I'm saying? Like, well, try it first, see if you can get it to work. Okay, where did it fail? I kind of do the same thing with my daughter. Just like sometimes you have to let them fail, and it's just like, oh, all the answers, but it's important that they grow too,
Yeah.
and it's, in a controlled scenario.
In a controlled environment.
Not go flying down a hill and roller skates or something, but you know what I mean? Like maybe
Yeah.
maybe skate around the rink though, like,
Yeah.
well,
I get it. So I mean, knowing what you know now, is there anything you would do differently?
you know, that's tough. Um, I don't know if I would do anything differently. One thing I did want to talk about is, you don't because we're a service industry, right?
Yeah.
And engineering is one of the oldest professions in the world. You can't go from like 0 to 100, right? You have to understand that there's like building blocks, and they must be established to demonstrate that you have the capacity and the capability to do the work, right? It's almost like school, right? Like you go to college. Did you really learn anything? No, you just learn how to learn, right?
Right.
And it's like it's the same kind of thing. I think when I started, or like when I was like hiring people, I'm like, oh, and it's like you have to allow these blocks to develop, right? And they have to happen so that you can keep going.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we're looking at jobs now. Like, I wouldn't even, like, it was when there was 5 of us. I'm like, I can't even imagine, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's because we allowed it. We went through and we gritted out of it. Some of these, like, we would take jobs and they were just, I knew I wasn't going to make any money off of them. But you know what? It kept the lights on. It kept,
Yeah.
it paid everybody. And yeah, I would have loved to make more profit, but, you know, uh, yeah, like the block,
It gave you additional experience
it
to
allows you
pull
to
from.
get larger projects, advertise for them,
Yeah.
um, and keep existing clients. But yeah, um, I, and I think like our unique thing, if you look at other consultants, like we're very technical. I think like we're almost more like engineers rather than consultants. But like if you look at what we do and the projects we do, we really are consultants. Does that make sense? And I
Yeah.
feel like other people don't have all that background where they can literally talk about every single, like everything we've put in a report we can talk about and tell you why.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I love
yeah.
it. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your experience. Where can people learn more about you if they want to connect?
Yeah, I know you have like my LinkedIn. We're pretty active on. I don't know if anyone uses Facebook anymore, but my mom does, so I'll stay on there. Facebook, Instagram, and then LinkedIn, of course. We have
Yeah.
that. We post about all our new hires. www.hessconnect.com is our website. All of that is fed through there. Um, but yeah, it's definitely, there's even a contact button. We have a You may laugh, but getting a phone number was a really big deal, and a fax number. I think I went like 5 years without having it, and one of the responses are like, "What's your fax number?" I'm like, "Crap, we better get that real quick," But yeah, we have a main line. We have several admin. Happy to talk to you. Obviously we get a lot of cold calls, but sometimes we get really, really exciting stuff to work on. But yeah, definitely reach out, and thank you so much for your time, Tim. This has been cool.
Absolutely. I appreciate yours. So go connect with Jessica over at hesconnect.com. Her LinkedIn profile we will put in the show notes. Unfortunately, there's multiple Jessica Harris's on LinkedIn, so you may have a hard time finding her right away. So we'll make sure that link gets directly in there. And thank you so much for sharing your journey, and certainly wish you the best as you continue to go down this path. Those of you that are watching and listening, appreciate you. And if you want to connect with us, you can do that at rialtomarketing.com, RIALTO marketing.com. The other resource we've got for you is over at revenue-roadblock-scorecard.com. When we work with clients, we help them remove the 9 revenue roadblocks within marketing. And if you want to know which ones are slowing down your growth, that's where you can find out in less than 5 minutes. So thank you again. Till next time, take care.